say, but wrapping it up in his special way. Throw in a preview show, add some alcohol, and here we go. Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman.
Hola, senores, it is I, Senor Batman, and I am here. Whoop, almost got it twice. Alright, anyways, I'm here because on Sunday there was a rules meeting. 9 of 12 of the members of the league made it to the rules meeting. They ate wieners and burgers, and they decided on the rules to be changed or to not be changed. Hint, hint, 2 flexes this year. So, besides that, divisions were decided. So for that reason, the schedule has been made, meaning that there's also going to be a schedule reveal on this episode. So I'm going to go through all the rules changes. There's 19 of them. 19 rule changes, okay? And then after that, in the preview for the season, there's going to be the schedule reveal. It's pretty intense. I got a head start and kind of saw it beforehand, and I was like, holy shit, there's going to be some good matchups this year. So, let's get to the rules meeting right up.
Right up!
Well, alright, here we go. So, I'm just going to go down each item, kind of say something a little bit, almost knocked off my height. Okay, so I'm going to say a little something about each thing, and we'll go from there. First rule, 2 flexes stays for the 3rd year consecutively. Fuck 2 flexes. Looks like his team name is going to be Fuck 2 Flexes again. Almost, it seems like he gets a few more supporters every year, but once again, not enough, and he gets 2 flexes. And the league will be 2 flexes. So, but there was a change because of that, and that's 5 bench spots. So now, last year there were 6 bench spots, and now this year there will be 1 left. So technically, 12 teams in the league. That means there'll be 12 more players, possibly on the waivers, on the free agency list. So free agency should be a little bit deeper. It probably won't be a big difference, but it'll be a little different. Next up at number 3, Keeper League. Starts with the next 2016 Jesus Christ, season. 1 keeper will be kept at previous year's draft position. So that means, so everyone's going to draft this year, and then when next year's draft comes along, they're going to be able to decide if they want to keep 1 player from the previous year that was on their team that they drafted. Now, the player must also still be on their team, and, you don't have to keep someone, but it probably makes sense to keep someone. But, basically, a keeper league. It's something that was talked about at the championship party last year, and, now this year or something, you guys decided that you wanted to keep a player. So, there you go. 1 player kept from the previous year's draft. Should make things a little bit different this year, especially in the draft. Maybe some people go for a late round value. Who knows? Next up, still going to be a snake draft versus an auction. When I kind of came by, I made a cameo. I kind of told everyone, like, hey, you guys should do an auction draft. Apparently, no one gives a shit what I have to say. Regardless, same thing as last year. Snake draft. Draft positions will be decided just like last year via beer pong. But divisions will not be decided because, as you can see at number 5, they were decided by total points for alternating. So basically what happened is you took total points from the previous season, each team's total score, and then you arrange those from most to least. And then so 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and so on, those guys, all the odd number rankings were in one division, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, those guys were in a different division to try and equal it out, at least based on last year's standings by points. So That will make one division consisting of Mark, Mike Rakestraw, Rick, Justin, Pat, and the new guy, Michael Kern. And then the second division consists of Nick, Sean Kylo, Luke Bartos, David Cade, Aaron, and excuse me, I'm a little drunk. Sean McGovern. So those are the two divisions. So those two divisions, anyone that's in that division will face the other 5 people in the division twice. They'll make up 10 weeks of the schedule, which we'll get to later, and then they'll face 3 of the other guys from the other division. Next up, in kind of a surprise, payout was voted, and by payout I mean buy-in. Whoever wrote this, Commissioner McFadden, is a jackass because payout doesn't make any sense. So payout means buyout, means buy-in, I should say. $150. So, and this is due by the draft. If you can get it sooner, if you can send payments every week or 2 weeks or whatever, if you need to put it in a piggy jar and then break it on the day of the draft and give it to Commissioner McFadden, that's good. Money is due. August 29th at the draft. No exceptions. Last year, he had to chase some people. It wasn't a big deal, he said, but, it'd be nice for him not to have to worry about it. So everyone must have their $150 payout buy-in due at the draft. And if not, there will be consequences. You may not be completely in control of your destiny. Someone else may be drafting your first round pick. That one being Commissioner McFadden's wife. So make sure your money's in by then. And if there's going to be some type of issue or arrangement, let him know ahead of time. Don't come to the draft and go, oh, hey, is it okay if I do this? No, it's not okay. Your money's due at the draft. It's only June 9th. The draft's still until August 29th. You got plenty of time to figure it out. So do it. Next up. And this was kind of an interesting rule. But you must start a complete roster. Which, now what this means, and you could ignore the explanation, but what it means is, say Monday Night Football comes and you have a defense to go. You're up 3 points. And you're like, hey, I'm just going to bench. He has no one else to go. I'm going to bench my defense and lock in this victory. Well, if you decide you want to do that, that's a $10 fine that you are going to get to a kiddie fund, as Bohack was calling it. And that kiddie fund will go out as part of the payouts, which I'll get to later too as well. But regardless, so basically, it's to deter that. Because let's face it, you should have to start a whole roster every week. I mean, it's the only fair way of doing it. It also kind of fits because it's like, hey, if you check out at the end of the season and go, oh, hey, I don't give a shit no more, I'm not going to win the league, well, guess what? You're going to end up paying some money there, Buster Brown. So, yeah, so basically, this is the way it would go. $10 goes into the kiddie fund, and if you were getting winnings, it would be deducted from your winnings. So say you were going to win $20 and you didn't start a roster 1 week, you only get $10 because the other $10 went into the kiddie fund. Now, and now what these players, you're like, well, what's not a complete roster? Well, let's say there's a player that's on the IR, and he was put on the IR, say, on Thursday, and you still have him in your roster on Sunday. That's not you didn't start the complete roster. You knew he was out. You're not paying enough attention. This is supposed to be a competitive, fun, but competitive league. And, if you don't start someone, maybe that guy that you're facing is going to get the win on you because of that. And maybe he wouldn't have if you just start a complete roster. And maybe that fucks up the playoffs for someone else. It's not really fair, and it makes it, kind of shitty. So everyone's got to start a complete roster every week. So, if you start someone that's on the IR or players that are on bye weeks, you got to find a replacement. And also, not to mention players that are ruled out before Sunday. So say Saturday morning, they're like, hey, guess what? This guy's not going to play. He's out. He's given the O tag. Then it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess you need to put someone else in his spot. Basically that. If someone's questionable going into the game on Sunday and they're like, we don't know, he might play, he might not, and then all of a sudden, a half hour before the game starts, they say no, and you just didn't get to, you didn't see it in time, then that'll be excused in most cases. But, as far as, if the guy was, 8 o'clock Sunday morning, and the guy's like, he's out, he's not going to play, and it's known all morning until noon that he's not going to play, or 1 o'clock if you're Florida time for the Florida guy, then, that's just, then you should know. There's plenty of time. But, it'll be a case-by-case basis if it's a Sunday guy, but it shouldn't be an issue. It really wasn't an issue last year, but it's just to kind of eliminate some uneasiness or give people that option. Because last year, Beast Mode, also known as Sean Kylo, when he faced in the last week 13, he faced Chronic Roster Bader, and he could have said, okay, I think I got a better shot against beating Justin in the playoffs than I do against Luke. And what he could have done is just benched, a player or two to make sure he lost. So that way he could control who he faces the next week in the playoffs. But he didn't do that. He did the honorable thing and just said, I'm going to do what I do, and whatever happens, happens. He knew he was in the playoffs, so that's basically that. There's really nothing more to that. It's just kind of like a little asterisk just so that doesn't happen ever. Next up, in kind of a surprise rule change, safeties will increase to 3 points from 2. So, basically, something that no one can really predict and really isn't going to affect much, you wouldn't think, changed. So, whatever. Next up, you're only allowed to change your team names. I'm looking at you, Mr. Charles Johnson Show, and turn down for what, and all whatever team names you picked, Mr. Rakestraw. You're only allowed to change your name one time after week 1. Then after week 1, if you change your team name a second time, you're going to get it changed back. Commissioner McPhail will just change it back to your last team name. So, simple as that. The only way you can get your team name beat is our next point, if you get beat by 70 points by someone else. So if you beat someone by 70 points, you get to rename their name to whatever you want. Make it something clever. Just putting the words fuck, shit, dickhead, cocksucker, cunt, and making someone that their team name doesn't make very much sense. It's not really funny. It's just like, oh, you just put a bunch of swear words. Do something ingenious. Yeah, maybe Mark's Female Dogs or Mark's Female Dog wasn't a very good team name. It's kind of lame. It was like a dad joke almost. But regardless, it doesn't change the fact, at least there's a little thought to it. I don't know. That's my opinion. You can do what you want. You can name it, if you want to name it, Shit Stain McGovern, if someone changed Sean McGovern's name, then that's what you can do. It's not really the funniest thing, but whatever. Next up, for the draft, there will be an official smoke break every 4 rounds. It'll be 10 minutes. No more, no less. Period. There will be a 10-minute break between every 4 rounds. It's not necessarily a smoke break. It's kind of just a break for everyone to get up, stretch, kind of gather your thoughts, think real quick. Because the fact of the matter is you have a 2-minute time limit for picks. That's point number 12. Then if you do not make a pick by the end of the time limit, you forfeit that pick and you move down. So say you're the 8th pick in the first round. And after 2 minutes you don't have a pick. Well, guess what? You're going back from the 8th pick for just that round to the 9th pick. And whoever was 9th pick moves up to the 8th pick. So basically they get your pick, you get their pick. You guys swap. And that's 2 minutes is more than enough time. You should kind of be in between rounds, in between your picks, kind of keeping a mental cue like of maybe 5, 6 guys that you want. And if they all, if you're watching it and kind of like, oh shit, my list has gone down from 5 to 2, maybe kind of add a guy or 2. So that way when your pick comes, you're not sitting there for 2 minutes going, oh, what the fuck do I do? So that way you can just kind of, if there's 2 guys you're deciding between, you kind of have 2 minutes to go, okay, this guy did this, and this guy did that, and this guy, he's got the nice butt, and this guy's got a nice bulge in his front of his pants. There you go. Then you pick the guy with the bulge in the front of his pants. So, simple enough. 2-minute rule. And, that'll be 2-minute pick for everything. So, every round, if everyone used the full 2 minutes, would be 24 minutes. So, I don't expect that to be what happens, because obviously it's going to go a lot quicker for some and slower for others. But it won't be any slower than 2 minutes. Next up, Week 9 is the trade deadline. once the Monday night game has been played during week 9, trades are off limits. No trades will be pushed through after week 9. So as soon as it goes from Monday night to Tuesday on week 9, I don't have the date. I suck dick apparently, but regardless, no more trades. There was supposed to be a deadline last year. There wasn't one. At least, there was a little bit of a mix-up. Regardless, doesn't matter. Next up, all trades will cost $5 per order. Now, this is the McFadden rule. Now, if we go back actually at number 12, the 2-minute time limit, that's the Kylo rule. Last year he took some time. He was trying to perfect his team. He took us a long time. People didn't like it. It got changed. Well, people also didn't like that Chronic Rossbader traded 8 times last year. Now, 3 of those times were with Mark, and then what would they make that 5 times with someone else? So regardless, sorry, my nose itch. Anyways, so $5 per owner, and then we'll go into the kiddie fund that will be awarded out at the end of the year. Really not much to that. You want to trade someone, you pay $5. Now, the way this works, though, is both owners pay $5. So it's kind of like $10 a trade. Just both people are splitting it. There was really no discussion if you could be like, all right, well, if you pay my trade fee, I'll do it. But, I don't know. I'm guessing that's not okay, but we'll find out. That'll be something to be clarified later. Next up, the draft, which everyone must be at in person unless your name is Michael Kern, and that's because you live in Florida, has to be at the draft. And he has to be at the draft too, but via the TV, via Skype, via the internets. Draft is Saturday, August 29th. It'll be in the late afternoon, early evening at Senor, not my house, you don't know where I live, at Justin's house, Commissioner McFadden's house. The food choices will be determined later, but early thing is that it sounds like a taco bar, and that sounds fucking delicious. I wish I could go, but I will be, I have to take care of my perro. He needs his butt cleaned that day. So anyways, late afternoon, evening, probably 4 or 5 o'clock. So keep Saturday, August 29th, booked for the draft. No excuses. If all of a sudden there's something that you absolutely cannot make it for, let everyone know as soon as possible. Everyone seemed to be okay with that date. Everyone that couldn't make the room meeting was okay with that date. So there shouldn't be no problems. But, if all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I forgot we're having a family reunion that day and I got to go. Well, the fact of the matter is this is at 4:30, 5 o'clock probably. So, dinner time. So maybe just go for lunch and then come to the draft. I don't know. Regardless, this is the draft date. It was voted on. It's permanent. It's the way it goes. Next up, trades will be reviewed and voted on a third-party site. That site being SurveyMonkey.com. 7 vetoes needed to overturn a trade. So the way this is going to work is you go to this. So when there's a trade, the commissioner will put the trade on the site. He will send out the survey either via text message, Facebook, email, Twitter, whatever you decide at the draft is your preferred method of communication. It will be sent to you. If you don't want the trade to go through, you vote no. If you want to go through, go yes. But the fact of the matter is there's going to be a time limit for the trade to be open. Probably 24 hours. So you have 24 hours to vote. If you don't vote, it doesn't matter. There needs to be 7 votes for no in order to overturn a trade. 7 out of the 12 people have needed to vote for the trade and vote no. If there is not 7 no's by 24 hours later after the survey was sent out and after the trade was accepted, doesn't matter. It goes through. Simple as that. Next up, the after party this year will be in Chicago on an unknown date, time, place. We don't know, but we want to do it in Chicago. That is what that is going to be. Number 18, last place must hang the Sacco, the frame picture of my beautiful face holding the bottle of tequila. Must hang it in their house until a new Sacco winner is crowned. So for 1 year, or if you lose it, if your last place kid, it stays on the wall. but it must be on the wall. You must provide photo evidence. And at any time, any member of the league can ask you for a picture of a new picture, a current picture of it on the wall, and you must provide it immediately. Finally, because there is a keeper league now, an IR slot will be added to the bench. Now, to clarify what that means, it means that if you have, say you draft a guy like Randall Cobb and you get him, say you got lucky, you got him in the 4th round. You're like, wow, I got lucky, I got him in the 4th round. And say he starts the first 6 games and he's just on a tear. And then week 7 comes and say he just gets hurt. I mean, I don't know when the Packers bye is. Hopefully it's not week 7 because I'll sound like an idiot. But anywho, Randall Cobb goes up for a pass, comes down, twists his ankle, he's done for the season. Broke his ankle or something. Well, then if you were like, hey, I don't know if I want to drop this guy because he's done for the season. He's not coming back this year at all. But maybe I'll just put him in my IR in case I want to keep him. In case there's no one else on my team that I can have, better keeper value for. Maybe, he'll be good next year. So I'm just going to put him in my IR slot instead of dropping him and free up the bench spot so I don't have to waste the bench spot on him. So I put him in the IR. He's done for the year. He's not going to get me any more points. But at least if I have the option that if I want to keep him, I can. So that's basically that. I guess that's really it. I mean, now that's all that's left is to unveil the brand new schedule for the 2015 season. Let's go do a preview show for next year's schedule.
Preview show!
Well, all right. So here it is, everyone. The schedule. So let's go quickly down this. Week 1. Bohack will face Michael Rakestraw, Rick Pucci versus Mark Lasky in a repeat of last year's final to start the season. And then it says Senor Batman, which is, I guess, Commissioner McFadden, using my name like a douche, faces Michael Kern, the new guy. So will be very interesting to see how that matchup goes. Then in the other division, Sean Kylo versus Luke Bartos, Sean McGovern versus Nicholas Bartos, Aaron Barton versus David Cade. Week 2, Boak faces Rick, Rakestraw faces Justin, Lasky faces Kern, Kidd faces Kylo, McGovern faces Luke Bartos, and then Nick Bartos versus Aaron Barton. Week 3, Rick faces Justin, Michael versus Michael in the Michael Bowl, Part 1. Then you got Lasky versus Bohack, Barton versus Bartos, Luke Bartos that is, Nick versus David Cade, and then the Sean Bowl, Sean McGovern versus Sean Kylo, Part 1. Week 4, you got Mike Rakestraw versus Rick, Justin versus Lasky, Bohack versus Kern, Barton versus Kylo, then the Bartos Brother Bowl, another installment, the first of 2 this year, at least, well, never know what happens in the playoffs, but Luke and Nick face off, and then Kidd versus McGovern. Then the final week of interdivision matchups, round 1, ends with Rick facing Michael Kern, Rakestraw versus Lasky, Boak versus McFadden, Kylo versus Bartos, Nick Bartos, Aaron Barton versus McGovern, and David Cade versus Luke Bartos. Then in the interdivision matchups, you got Kylo versus Rakestraw, which will sure to spur some, side bets. Then you got Barton versus Bohack, Kidd versus McFadden, Bartos versus Pucci, McGovern versus Kern, and Bartos versus Lasky. Then, in week 7, which is the second of the division versus matchups, you got Rakestraw versus Bartos, Nick Bartos. You got Bohack versus McGovern, McFadden versus Luke Bartos, which is a rematch of 2 years ago's final. Then you got Kern versus Cade, a battle of, Kern is a rookie to this year, to this league. He may have played fantasy football before, but to this league, he's a rookie. And Cade was a rookie last year and was no Smythe round. Pucci's the only other guy that was a rookie last year. So Kidd versus Kern in kind of a newbies division or matchup. You got Lasky versus Kylo, and then you got Pucci versus Barton. Then in the final week of the versus matchups between the two divisions, you got Kylo versus Bohack, Barton versus Kern, Kid versus Pucci in a battle of the rookies of last year. You got Luke Bartos versus Lasky. You got McGovern versus Rakestraw. And then Nick Bartos versus Senor Batman, which is a rematch of last year's third place battle, which Nick Bartos won. Then it's basically a repeat of the previous matchup. So it'll be Luke Bartos versus Sean Kylo, Kern versus McFadden, Lasky versus Rick Pucci, and the second of the rematches of the final from last year. Kid versus Barton, Rakestraw versus Bohack, McGovern versus Nick Bartos. Then Nick Bartos versus Barton, Kern versus Lasky, Kid versus Kylo, McFadden versus Rakestraw, Rick Pucci versus Pat Bohack, and McGovern versus Luke Bartos, and that's week 10. Week 11 is Rick Pucci versus McFadden, Lasky versus Bohack, Bartos versus Cade, meaning Nick Bartos, Aaron Barton versus Luke Bartos. I guess you could call that the Meyer Bowl, because they both worked at Meyer. Actually, Barton still does. Sean Kylo versus Sean McGovern in the Sean Bowl, Part 2. And then Michael Kern versus Michael Rakestraw in the Michael Bowl, Round 2. Week 12, with the final 2 weeks now, here we are. So Aaron Barton versus Sean Kylo, Rakestraw versus Pucci, Bohack versus Kern, McFadden versus Lasky, Cave versus McGovern, and then the Bartos Bowl Part 2 for 2015 to round out Week 12. Finally, in the final week before playoffs, Lasky versus Rakestraw, which should be a huge matchup. If last year's any indication, two of the better teams from last year, the champion and Rakestraw, who was one of the top scorers, I think the third highest scorer. Then you got McFadden versus Bohack, Cade versus Bartos, Pucci versus Kern, Bartos versus Kylo, which could be playoff implications, and McGovern versus Barton. So that is, I'm going to transition to the full screen. That is the schedule for 2015. So everyone knows who they're facing. The only thing that's left to find out is your draft position and the team that you get from that position. Otherwise, everything else is already known here in June 9th. I mean, it's the beginning of summer. And by the end of summer, you have to wait for that type of thing. So lots will change between then and now as far as players, who's going to be good, who's going to maybe not be good. There's people now that people are saying it's going to be good, that maybe come August, people won't be so high on. Who knows? Regardless, that's the show. So now you know the rules breakdown. If it wasn't covered, then it's the same as last year. So get yourself familiar with the rules in case you forget. Just go to the page. It's already been reactivated, so if you want to change your team name, you can change that right now. Otherwise, you can go look at the rules and you freshen yourself up. I don't think they've all been updated yet. I don't think the safety thing's been updated or the field goal thing, which the field goal thing I didn't cover, but it's basically the same as last year, except there will be now negative points for missed kicks. There wasn't negative last year. So other than that, so now you know your schedule, you know the rules. I guess that's very much it. So I'll be checking in periodically to let you know as the draft comes closer, how close we are getting. I'll give you little updates here and there. And then I'll probably do another draft PSA like I did last year to remind you of all the details of the draft. To make sure you make it there in time. Otherwise, that's all I've got for this week. So everyone have a great summer and adios!